So welcome. So I just want to give you guys a big welcome. Thank you guys for taking some time out of your day to jump on this call. We've got a very, very good guest that's going to be on the call today. So I just thought it would be great for you guys to for me to introduce her to you guys. So before I get into the main topic of the call, I just wanted to kind of give a brief intro about what we do in the A team. So a quick about us. So the vision behind the A team is quite simple. We are on a mission to establish a global network of the ambitious and financially blessed. How we will do that is literally by identifying, nurturing, and integrating current and aspiring high performers into our network of online bread farmers. And by online bread farmers, what I'm talking about is that people that go online and sow their seeds to make money, yen, dollars, whatever it is, whatever currency it is, we're about literally making money online. And additionally, our members, we are a family of ambitious internet entrepreneurs on a mission to know ourselves, clarify our vision, and of course, make it real. This is some of our core values. So our core value is obviously ambition, gratitude, self-awareness, perseverance, continuous learning, eclecticism, and of course, impact. And every single one in this call, no matter the situation, whether I referred you or someone else referred you, you've showed these traits. So thank you for jumping on the call and thank you for being you. Additionally, for those that don't know, the A in the A team stands for active, and that's active commitment today, inspires victory every day. And of course, we affirm, we commit, we test, we iterate, and we validate. Then we execute on our plans to make it real. A quick plug. So if you guys are interested, you can join a book club. So this is where we share all of the stuff that you need to learn about that money, mindset, and business. So if you guys are interested, I'm going to share that in the chat right now. So bear with me 1 second. So you guys should see that in the chat. Let me know if you guys can see that. And additionally, yes, the link will be said in the chat. And additionally, if you guys are interested in joining the A team, then please, by all means, you can message me or Layla at admin@karun.com with the subject line, join the A team, and we can take it from there. So you guys know for every single A call, I like to start with a quote. And the quote I want to start off with today is, whether you think you can or you can't, you're normally right. Yeah. And that quote is from a guy called Henry Ford. I'm sure you guys know at Ford Motors, etc. So I just thought I should start with that. And I just want to ask every single one of you that are on the call right now that this is the perfect time for you guys to block all distractions. And of course, if you guys stay to the end of the call, then Linda has agreed to kind of give you guys a free 6-day leadership and communications training. So to those who stay at the end of the call, will get that training for free. So thank you for your cooperation. Now, before I get Linda to start speaking, I thought let me give a little bit of a background about who Linda is. So Linda is a transformational coach. She's an author, and as well as she's an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur as well. So without further ado, Linda, please introduce yourself. Thank you for jumping on the call. And yeah, how are you doing today?
Hi, everyone. I'm good. Thank you. Yeah, yep. You've given an overview about me. I'm sure you're going to have loads of questions for me, but I'm glad to be here and hopefully I can add some value.
Yeah, of course you're going to do, man. Thank you for jumping on the call and thank you for taking the time to come and share some of your experience today. And for those who are on the call right now, so how we did it last week and how we're going to do it today is that I've muted most of you guys at the moment just so we can make sure that this call is audibly, everything runs smoothly. But if you guys do have any questions throughout the call, then please, by all means, just save them to the end, or you can write them in the chat and we can look at them in the end during the audience Q&A. Or if you want to speak and if you want to unmute yourself, let me know and I'll unmute you so you can have a discussion or say your question to Linda. So yeah. Linda, so before we get into the main topic, so you guys can probably see the title. So from depressed and homeless to 2 million in under 4 years. Now that's a very, very eye-catching type of title. So what I wanted to do before we kick things off is to kind of give you an opportunity to maybe peel back the curtain a little bit. So tell us about your story. What's your backstory? Who is Linda Mbagwu, basically?
Okay, so that's a really long story. So I'm going to just start from my career. Just to try and condense it a little bit. But when I was in university, I always knew I wanted to work for myself, but I was encouraged to get a job and I listened. I wanted to make a lot of money, wanted to get into investment banking, but I was told I would have to go and get a finance qualification, and that wasn't an option for me. I didn't really like education. So I looked at the next best thing, and that was recruitment. So I fell into recruitment as a graduate, figured out that it was right up the alley in terms of my skills. I love people. I love getting to know them. And I was able to become a top biller and bill about 1.2 million for the company I was working for within 6 months, which was unheard of. I worked for a large corporate, a boutique, and then a startup before getting an ultimatum, and then I decided to leave. But when I decided to leave, I'd broken up with my partner, so I cancelled our wedding 4 months before the day. I had left and I was living by myself, so I had to move in with my mum, and I wasn't getting on with my mum, and I decided that I was never ever going to work for anyone and give them the power to give me an ultimatum and control my job status. So that kind of defined the next few years. So I fell into depression because all of the changes at the same time was probably too much stress for me to handle, and I didn't know what depression was. I thought it was only for weak people, and I thought I wasn't weak. And I got a rude awakening that it doesn't discriminate on who it kind of approaches. But it was the best thing that happened to me. It was my rock bottom. So I was depressed. I was living with my mum. I was arguing with her, and the pressure and the level of anxiety I had from living with her was just too much. And I thought that anything was better than living there. And I was too proud to ask anyone to stay with them. So I ended up moving into my car, and I'm 5'11", so I'm pretty tall. And I had a Mini at the time. So I moved into my Mini, and I was like, okay, what am I going to do now? I still didn't want to get a job. I had my laptop, I had my phone, I had some clothes, and I went to the coffee shop every day, and I would plug my laptop in, and I started calling my contacts and tried to build my recruitment business. So that homeless stint only lasted for about 3 weeks. But in that time, I was introduced to a coach, a life spiritual coach, and he was working with me to help me kind of untangle the things that were happening that led to the depression. And yeah, so from that point, I was working on the business, and it wasn't successful for about 15 months. I think I probably made about, I don't know, 10,000, if that, 10,000 in the first year. I had a lot of insecurities. I felt like I was a young Black woman in a mainly white male dominated industry, and didn't think that I like anyone would want to work with me, and that got in the way a lot. And then I did a investment process with James Karun, and out of 13,000 applicants, I was one of 3 to be offered investment. And I turned it down because he wanted 70% of the business, and I was already a year in, and with blood, sweat and tears, even though I wasn't making any money, I did feel comfortable about giving away that large of a chunk. But the co-sign from him and his team kind of made me feel like, well, if they can see something in me, then I must have something. And from that point, 2 weeks after that, I landed my first contract at 45,000 euros, and it just went from strength to strength from that. So in the second year, I broke the £1 million turnover threshold, and then after that, I worked for about 3.5 years in the business, and I left, and it was turning over 2.4 million when I decided to walk away from it. And I went traveling to try and figure out what I wanted to do next. And eventually I figured out that all of the experience that I had given me a unique ability to be able to speak to people and figure out their limitations and what was stopping them and holding them back. So I started coaching, started getting really good results from that, and decided that I wanted to figure out a way to scale it. So now I'm focused on going into organizations and turning around business cultures by teaching leaders leadership, so that they can not only expand themselves and their awareness and their abilities, but create environments where people that they're managing can thrive.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that. For going through. You went through a lot. I'm gonna ask you to break a lot of those stuff down during the course of this interview. But before I even get into that, I just wanted to thank you again for jumping on the call, because one of the things that I've gone to realize in my own journey is that you actually can't achieve what you don't perceive. And the reason why I wanted to kind of get you on the call is because I'm sure there's probably a lot of people that are on the call right now, or people that may be watching this, maybe watching a replay, where they have some sort of thing where, like a mental block, where they don't think it's possible. But by having someone like you on the call and showing your story, and even kind of going through some of the stuff that you mentioned in your story just now, I feel like it will be like a motivating factor to say, yeah, this is possible and I can do it as well. So again, thank you for sharing your backstory. You mentioned, just like the second question I have for you just now is that you mentioned so like you touched upon what you do. So if you could kind of give what's brand by being, and what exactly is brand by being, what's the ethos, what are you trying to achieve, what's your goal with what you're doing in the moment?
Okay, so the name basically represents the philosophy I live by, that who you are is a representation, or what you're producing in your life is a representation of who you are. So if you're in your business right now and you've been in your business and for whatever reason you keep producing the same results and they're not what you want them to be, it's just a reflection of where you are internally in terms of your mindset, the sort of thoughts that you have, the sort of feelings and emotions that you have, which dictate the actions that you take. So brand by being is focused on mainly working with organizations and leaders. And the reason I went down that road is because I want my impact to spread, and people are spending the majority of their time at work. And there's a stat that states that 85% of people who are at work are actively disengaged, which means that 85% of people are miserable. Because if you're spending the majority of time at work and 85% of people don't like being there, then that's defining who they are, and they're taking that energy into their families and homes. So if I can work with leaders to transform the way that they look at leadership and expand them, then they can create environments where people are actually happy to come to work and feel like they're contributing to something bigger than themselves, and learn skills that bypass their self-awareness and their personal growth, which will then have a ripple effect on their family. So I'm really in this work for impact now. I made money, and when I got to that stage, something switched off in me, and it's easy to kind of hear it from people, which is why if I meet anyone who's just like, I want to make money, do your thing, because when you get there, you'll realize that there's something missing, because it's not what it cracked up to be, because you're still that same person with the money. And if anything, you kind of go down a downward spiral, because you set an expectation that the money will bring some form of fulfillment, and then you get there and you're not fulfilled, and it's like, okay, now what? My life's a mess. So I'm now in that kind of game of creating wealth whilst being fulfilled, and I'm currently fulfilled on a daily basis building this new business. So
okay. So what you mentioned just now, I'm going to touch upon that in a few questions. I just want to make sure that the questions are asked, it kind of goes along in the timeline of your journey so far. So I want to backtrack a little bit. And so when you discussed your background story, you discussed that briefly, the journey of homelessness. It was for 3 weeks, depression, and having to work on your inner self to overcome these trials. So are you able to take us through that process and share some of the milestones you needed to reach to get through it all? Because I know there's a lot of people that are going through similar things internally. So what are the milestones that you had to overcome internally, and how did you get through it?
I think it's not as simple as milestones in terms of a step A, step B, step C. But when I was at that rock bottom position, firstly, I couldn't see anything else but feeling depressed. And by working with a coach and hearing myself, I got to hear the ridiculousness of myself. So a lot of people are consumed by the thoughts that they have in their mind. And I always say that the mind has a mind of its own. So we think we're in control, but what has happened is that little ticking machine inside our heads that we're supposed to use as a tool has kind of overpowered us, and now it's in control. So you are not actually your thoughts, you're not actually your mind, and it's how do you create enough space to distinguish that. So by hitting rock bottom and working with someone, I was able to realize that everything that was happening in my life, I had a kind of habit of pointing outwards and saying, it's my family's fault, it's not fair, I struggle in business because I'm Black and I'm a woman, and I didn't start with investment and everyone else has investment, and it's okay if I was a white male, it would be easy. So I had all of these excuses that didn't give me any power, because if it's out there, then what can I do? I can just, I'm a victim, I can just be helpless to it. So I think what the key pivotal thing that changed my my position from being depressed to kind of going on the road of recovery. So I've never been depressed since, because it's just been a constant evolution. It's firstly realizing if something's happening, it's starting here, and getting into a habit of looking at, okay, well, what am I doing to create this outcome in my life? What am I doing to affect the types of relationships that I have? And then doing the opposite. And when you do the opposite, it's really interesting. So when I was going through that process of changing, so I would identify what I was doing, all the thoughts that I would have. And because I had awareness of it, I was now in control. So when I would feel the urge, or I would get a thought, I would have to talk to myself then, you're about to do this, but you know you have to do this, so do this. And then I would start moving in the opposite direction of what I would normally have done, or how I would have normally thought. And your body starts to panic, because your brain has created all of these defense mechanisms of things that have happened in the past. And it creates this, your behaviors and the ways of being. And when you do the opposite, it thinks that you're about to die. So it pours out lots of chemical reactions. I think I don't know how many times I caught the flu, because it's getting you into flight or flight mode. But if you persevere through that fear, and through the anxiety and through the resistance, it then is like, oh my gosh, we're still alive, we're safe. And it's almost like the armor goes down. And the more you kind of practice feeling the fear and the pain and pushing through anyway, the more your brain starts to kind of let go, and then you start becoming in control of yourself. Another thing that really helped was visualization. And a lot of people think it's really woo-woo, but if you're able to visualize the future that you want to create, despite what's going on in your current situation, but experience the emotions and really live it like it's true. And then when you open your eyes, walk in it like it's already done, then the things just start happening in line with that. And then before you know it, you're having a deja vu moment, because you've stepped into what you visualize. So that's how I got my place. So I would sit in my car and I would visualize my place. And it was exactly, I got a council place, and I wasn't entitled to a council place because I didn't have a child. I wasn't entitled to any more than a bed sit, and I got a 1-bedroom house. And I didn't want to live in a high rise, and it was a split level mansionette. I literally visualized this place, and I went to one viewing and it was mine. So it was things like that. It was little things like knowing where my limitations were, and intentionally doing the opposite to kind of reprogram my neurological connections.
Okay, that makes, like, you touched on a lot of gems just now. So you mentioned visualization, and you mentioned the whole purpose of like having intention in your thoughts. So instead of you basically just going with the flow of what has already happened and what your subconscious has been bombarded with in the past, you decided to make your own visualize your own reality. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yep.
But also start to become aware of what's in your subconscious memory, because it's really automatic. So you don't actually know what you're doing. You're just doing it, and then it's done. So when something happens and you don't like it, start questioning yourself. Like, start questioning, why did I feel that sort of way? So I always say that the depression was the biggest gift I ever got, because it made me hypersensitive to my emotions. So if I ever feel anything but joy, love, happiness, I'm questioning it. So if I feel a little bit of anxious, and like I felt a little bit of jealousy earlier, and I was like, what's going on here? And I started working out, why is this coming up? And that gives me control to kind of, because when you arch your brain, if you arch your brain a question, it has to find an answer. So I ask enough times, and one of the other tools I use to find answers is journaling. If you just write a question and free write, eventually you'll get into a flow of words, and you'll start getting an answer to your question, or you'll get clarity, or you'll see the ridiculousness of your mind and the thoughts that it has. But sorry, did I go off track?
No, I'm completely with you. And I just want to remind anyone, if you guys have any questions about some of the stuff that Linda's discussing right now, then please save it, or you can put it in a chat, and then at the end I'll be more than happy to share that with Linda, or you can obviously unmute yourself at the end as well during the audience Q&A. So the question I have now, you touched upon it just now, but the inner work, what exactly is the inner work for someone that may not have heard of this statement before, and how does one even come to realize that there is one?
If you're alive, there's inner work. You're either aware of it and doing it, or you're not. So that's the difference between living a conscious life and an unconscious life. And unfortunately, the majority of the world are unconscious, which is why there are wars and Trump and things like that going on. It's just unconsciousness. So inner work is really around it's a level of responsibility that you are the absolute cause of absolutely everything that is going on, whether it's your business, whether it's your family relationships, whether it's anything that as long as you exist, you're doing inner work. It's just, are you going to become self-aware enough and present enough to realize the behaviors and the thoughts that you're having and how that's controlling the reality that you're creating?
Okay, so basically, you're saying that we are the captain of our own ships. Like, do you agree with that statement?
Definitely. Yeah, I love the quote that you posted in terms of like, if you believe you can and you believe you can't, you're right either way, because that's pretty much it.
Yeah, thank you. I try to make the quotes very, very intentional. So thank you for appreciating it. I got some people on the call that are probably hating on the fact that I do it very well. So I appreciate your your kind comments. All right, cool. So the next question I have. So as you know, this community, like, we're a bunch of entrepreneurs. So most of the people that are in the 18 were entrepreneurs. And as you will know, because you're an entrepreneur yourself, we have like normally 101 things we're juggling on a daily basis, i.e. or e.g. personal issues, business problems, trying to raise money, trying to build a team, and so on. So where do you place doing the inner work priority-wise amongst all of these things? And why?
Okay, so it's number one because it falls through all of that. So I have a meditation practice. I was meditating 20 minutes every morning and 20 minutes every evening, but I've ramped it up to an hour, and eventually I want to ramp it up to 2 hours. Why is meditation important? Because it creates space between you and your mind. So as entrepreneurs, we get into the habit of just doing. And when you get into the habit of doing, like, action begets action, which can be good, but then it can get overwhelming because your brain is now wired. So I still do sometimes suffer from insomnia, and because my brain is just constantly going and going and going. But there's something about creating space that allows, this might be a bit woo-woo, but you get downloads or from like the universe. So what I believe is that there's the mind level self, which can only get you so far, and then there's your spirit that exists within you. So there's certain times when your mind tells you no, and then you get this will behind that makes you persevere through, and you do it anyway. That's that part of you that is constantly there, but you're either tuned into it or you're not. And I think that being intentional about tapping into yourself and creating that space and creating creating space for you to be grounded and for you to be connected with yourself actually makes everything else that you're doing a lot more effective. You'll be in flow a lot more, you'll be clearer, you'll be focused. So inner work is number one. And even when you're dealing with business problems, relationships, all of that stuff, have been aware. So I've been in situations where people are screaming in my face because they're triggered by something, and I'm completely calm. And I can be like, okay, well, what's really going on here? Okay, let's handle this. If I wasn't doing inner work and I wasn't present and I wasn't aware, they will scream, they will trigger something in me, and then I'll go into defense, and then I'll start screaming, and it will just be a screaming match. So as the entrepreneur, it actually gives you an edge if you're doing the inner work as well as being in action and doing the doing. So having that balance of being and doing really takes things to another level.
Okay, cool. Thank you for sharing that one. So just going off that, so again, I want to kind of go on a timeline of your journey so far in entrepreneurship and life, because obviously you're an entrepreneur, but you're actually a human being as well. Even though some people may not feel like that. But the question I have for you now is that you mentioned that you were running a very successful recruitment company, yeah, and it was doing, as people can see from the title, it was doing like was it a turnover of 2 million a year or
2.4 million. Yeah.
2.4 million. So the decision that you made to leave that profession, could you walk us through that if possible, and let us know with regards to like you doing the inner work, how much of a play did the inner work have in that decision, and how did you go about making a decision to even go into what you're doing right now?
Okay. It's so I had a few things. So I'm the second eldest daughter of 7 children. So supporting my family, we grew up poor. There were times when we didn't have electricity, gas, sometimes no food. I lost track of how many versions of potato dishes my mum made, to the point where I went on hunger strike. So my driving factor a lot was I got to make money to take care of my family. So that was my why, and that's what kept me going. And then when I went through the James Caan process, they were like, oh, they were trying to scare me into taking partnership. They said 10,000 recruitment businesses open every year, and you know that only 10% of them actually make it past 3 years. I was like, okay. And then they said, and only 10% of that 10% make it past $1 million turnover. I said, all right. And then I walked away, and I was like, oh, I'm going to be part of that top 10% of the 10%. Mm-hmm. So the things that were driving me were, I need to look after my family. So it was never me. When I was homeless, it was never, oh, I've got to like buy a nice house and buy a nice car. I bought a place and a car, but that was never my driving factor. It was my family and defying the odds and proving people wrong. So I pushed and pushed and pushed, and by year 2, I broke $1 million. And I didn't know it at the time. Something switched off in me, and I just lost any will. I didn't care about work. The business was kind of just growing from itself at that point. I wasn't really doing anything. Sometimes I'd wake up in the morning and I found myself and be like, I'm not coming in. I don't feel like it. You lot do what you want. Work, don't work. I don't care. I'll still pay you. And I was like, what is wrong with me? Am I falling into depression again? And my mentor would say, oh, every entrepreneur goes through this, just stick it out. And all of my, everyone was just saying, just keep riding it out. You've got this successful business, just keep growing it. What do you mean? Don't leave it. And I was like, but I don't care. Why am I feeling like this? And I went to see a doctor to see if I was having hormone imbalances. I couldn't figure it out. And then after 15 months of feeling that way, it was just like, I spoke to my mum. My mum raised me on meditation. I started meditating at the age of 11, and she would never give advice. And I was saying to her, Mum, I'm speaking to all these people and they keep telling me to stay, but I really just am not feeling it. And I don't know why. And I just feel dead inside. And she said, well, you've got to turn within. Why are you asking them? You have the answer. So I was like, actually, she's got a point. And then I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to leave everyone, leave everything. I went to India, went to a meditation retreat, left my phone, left my laptop, left my PA in charge of the business. And while I was out there, I realized that, so for a month I was meditating, doing art, singing, dancing. And it was the first time that I felt like a child. I realized that I didn't have a childhood. I started working at 8 years old. So my mum's second husband suffered from schizophrenia. So I had to help with my siblings, and just being in that space of complete freedom, I just realized that my whole life was just working, and I wasn't really enjoying what I was doing, and I didn't feel like I was making a difference. So what was the point? And the more I stayed there, the more I started realizing that I love helping people and I love helping my clients, but I felt restricted in doing that in my business, and I didn't know what I could do, but I just knew my business wasn't it. So when I came back, I had a meeting with my PA, and she said that I look like so I've never done drugs, I don't smoke, and she said that I look like I smoked a lot of weed because I must have been that zen. And I told her that I'm closing the business down, and she said that she saw it coming. I gave them I think I paid someone up to 4 months in the business. I told them to take their time, find something. My PA didn't want to find something. I helped her set up her own VA business. And then I went traveling. So I didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew that wasn't it. And I wanted more from life than being in a business that wasn't really fulfilling me and exciting me. And that's what made me leave. And at that time also, my family didn't need me as much. I invested in my dad to get into business in Nigeria. He was self-sufficient. My siblings were growing up and going to uni and getting their own jobs. My mum didn't really need me that much. So the pressure to kind of make money for the family wasn't there. So my why pretty much died. I had hit the targets that James Caan's company said that recruitment businesses don't hit, and I'd taken care of my family. So it was sort of like, what now? I didn't really know what I wanted past that, which is when I went to start looking. And then when I came back from traveling, one of my friends asked me to speak at his personal development event and share my story. And when I shared my story, a lot of people were asking, how did you get over depression? And how were you still able to take action and grow your business when you were depressed? And I thought, I don't think I've gone through all of this by accident. And I think everyone has it when they look back and they can see, oh my gosh, that was so hard. That was a hard period of my life, but I can see why it had to happen, or I got so many lessons from it. And I believe that everything happens for me, despite how crazy or uncomfortable it might seem and look. So I look back and I was like, maybe I've gone through this whole journey in order for me to figure out how I was able to overcome and create who I am now is like night and day to who I used to be. And I know that, I think one of the questions my coach used to ask me is, who are you? And when I started, I was like, I'm an older sister, I'm a recruiter, I'm a business owner. And he would just keep asking the question until I got it. And my answer was, I am who I am, who I am. Because in every single given moment, I can create myself to be who I want to be. And I've learned how to acquire. So if there's something in my personality that I don't have that I want, I just start taking actions in line with that person. And eventually it becomes my DNA. So that breadth of experience allows me to hold space for other people and really listen and read between the lines to what they want, because sometimes what we say we want is not what we really want, and then helping them connect the dots to see the blind spots that are stopping them from getting there. And it lights me up. Me and we've had how many conversations where I can go on and on and on and work with people and help people, and I don't see time. I feel fulfilled, I'm excited, and it's like, to think that I can get paid for doing that, it's mind-blowing. So that's how I kind of started coaching. And then the businesswoman in me was like, trade my time for money? Not quite sure about that. So yeah.
That makes sense. I hope people that are listening are taking a lot of advice, wisdom from that. So thank you for sharing. The next question I have for you actually is, so what is your advice for anyone currently battling with, let's say, low self-esteem or self-doubt, and they're on a journey to actualizing their vision? So they're trying to actualize their vision, but at the same time, they've got a lot of stuff in their head, or a lot of voices in their head saying that you can't do this, or you're not good enough, or why would people listen to you, etc. All this stuff that people may feel like is uncommon, but a lot of people are dealing with, you understand? So what would be your advice to someone currently going through that?
Well, firstly, it's common. So give yourself a bit of compassion. Everyone goes through it. Even I go through it now. So I'm getting into an area that I've never done before. And the analogy I gave about the mind and how it works, when something is new, it's scary because your brain doesn't know how to put things around it. So usually when we have a dream or a goal or ambition, it's past our reality of what's possible. And your brain is saying, we are unsafe. So let me give you all of the thoughts and the feelings and the emotion to keep you stuck. So that's normal. So there are a few things. If you're really, really deep in so I suffered with lack of self-worth in the first 15 months of my business, and I didn't want to deal with it. And every time my coach would go there, I'd be like, nope, no, I'm not going there. And he kept asking me why. And then I started asking why. And what I said earlier is, if you ask yourself a question, you will get the answer. So when I was like, why don't I want to work on self-worth? So even though some behaviors and some thoughts might seem uncomfortable to us, they're a comfortable known. So we get addicted to negative thoughts and emotions, and we hold on to them. And when I did that, when I asked that question, I realized that when I was growing up, girls used to tell me in school, I used to hang around with guys that I thought I was too nice. And at the time I hated myself. I thought I was ugly. So I felt like, well, if I don't like myself and I think I'm too nice, then if I do like myself, then they're really going to think I think I'm too nice. And I don't want that. So let me just keep hating myself. It's like, it's dumb when I say it now, but it was so real to me. And then I learned to do some mirror work. So that I got an urge one day to just write down things that I love about myself and I think I'm good at. And it was a really, really difficult task. And then I would take those things and I would stand in front of a mirror and I would look at myself and I would try and tell myself I love you. And just even trying to say those words I would be in floods of tears and I couldn't get it out and I didn't believe it. And I just kept doing that on a daily basis. And then before I knew it, I was like, yeah, you're not too bad. I quite like you. And then eventually I was able to say I love you. And it sounds silly, but it's little things like that, really connecting with yourself and finding ways to focus on the things that are lovable about yourself rather than the things, because it's really easy to fall into the trap of all the things that are not good. But then also the other thing that builds self-esteem and confidence is just being in action. The thing that you're scared of, really take time to ask yourself, what are you committed to? And if you're committed to achieving the dream or the desire that you have, is being scared and not taking action going to help you get there? And are you more committed to staying stagnant and being in fear, or are you more committed to hitting this goal? And if so, are you willing to be uncomfortable and be scared and feel all the anxiety and take the action anyway? Because a strange thing happens when you take the action. Is like, okay, well, you're not dead. All right, well, it's like when I say to people, what's the worst that can happen? It's like, I'm going to be embarrassed. And it's like, and then what? It's not going to kill you. So the more you take that action and you face that fear of being embarrassed, or you face that fear of failing, and you realize that it wasn't a blip on anyone's radar, nothing happened to you, if anything you got a lot of experience, then it starts building that resilience. And then you start in an indirect way, it builds that confidence too, because you're like, oh, I've done this and I've done this and I've done that. And that's another thing too. Look at the things that you have done, because the fact that you're here and if you are working for yourself, that takes a hell of a lot of guts. So what are the accomplishments that you have achieved that you just forget about when you're looking at yourself as a failure, and reaffirm those and write those and sit and just soak it in and be like, wow, out of the people I'm surrounded with, I know that I'm doing a lot, and I know that I'm capable of doing more, and I'm not going to let myself get in my way.
Well, thank you for sharing that, man. And even touching on that, because I get a lot of questions about this as well, so that's why I wanted to get another person's perspective. And one of the things that I would say, and hopefully you can confirm, is that even like you mentioned like affirmations, basically what you're saying. So just writing things down about yourself and saying I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, I'm that. But it's the consistency about it. So even when I'm going through down days, which are regular for entrepreneur, it's a thing where, okay, I know that I can turn to these words that I'm saying about myself. I can repeat it consistently over like every day if I can, you understand? So do you do that as well, or is it something that you just do when you can?
I don't necessarily now. I don't have to do that as much. Before I did. What I do now is, so they say that you are the sum of the people you surround yourself with. I have a lot of friends who are in the self-development spirituality world, but they're also entrepreneurs. So as soon as I can feel myself going down a kind of downward spiral of negative thoughts, I jump on the phone and I'm like, okay, this is what's going on. And then they don't listen to me so I don't phone people who reaffirm my victimhood. I don't who are like, oh my gosh, yeah, it's really hard for you. Yeah, you shouldn't know. I speak to people who are like, come on, Linda, you know better. Like, what are you committed to? What they can ask those questions that can allow me to bypass those thoughts that are coming up and be like, oh, okay, thank you. I've got the relief. And then I keep persevering on. So it's like going to the gym. Once you start doing this work, you'll get to the point where your down days, like I think I have, being down for an hour is too long for me. So if I start feeling like I'm insecure or I'm falling down a downward trap, within 20 minutes, I'm on the phone to someone to get me off it.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, cool. The funny thing about that actually, because one of the person in the A team, so we have mastermind groups. So people that are in the A team, we kind of put ourselves in mastermind groups of 3 and 5. And one of the things I realized through it is that because a lot of people were entrepreneurs, and we don't necessarily have individuals in our personal network or that we're hanging around on a daily basis that think like us. We do normally jump on those calls, and even one person today on a call, he called me and we had a discussion about they wanted to do this, wanted to do that, feeling a little bit down. And again, that reaffirming of someone that's like-minded and knows, okay, don't get yourself in a rut, just think in that positive way. So I feel like mastermind groups and having like-minded people is definitely a shout. So thank you for sharing that as well, man. So I got 2 more questions before I go into the live audience questions. So the question I have for you now is, if you were to give your 25-year-old self a few words of advice with the perspective that you have on life now, or what would you say?
Relax. Relax. I think that's the main thing. I was really uptight and I wanted to be in control of everything, and I wanted everything to happen yesterday. And I still sometimes fall into that, but it's like I've learned to just surrender and know that absolutely everything that is happening right now is absolutely perfect. And that took a lot of work to get to that stage. So if I had that back then, things would have kind of, the success would have happened a lot more quicker. The process would have been a lot more enjoyable. I wouldn't have been kicking and screaming along the way. So yeah, relaxing is the main thing. And also the knowledge, because I know now in hindsight that it might seem hard, but so I look at life as, it's like a computer game. There's levels. So at every level, it gets harder. So it's almost like everyone is kind of striving for things to be easy, and it's like that. So you're just constantly going to be let down. But if now when I get a challenge or some sort of adversity that I have to face, I kind of thank God, or like thank the universe, whatever you believe, because we don't get things to handle that we can't handle. So if your problem is really big, it's just showing that you've expanded yourself to the place where you can deal with it. So as entrepreneurs, you cannot be the same person running a kind of one-man band as you would be running a multiple hundreds of £1 million company with hundreds of employees. The level of problems you're going to deal with at that stage are not going to be, you're not going to be able to do that with the same mentality, the same person, the same frame of mind as you would in the one-man band. So you have to go through those challenges in order to grow your skin, in order to get the lessons, in order to expand yourself, to be able to deal with the next phase of life. So like surrendering and accepting the challenges that come up and kind of just growing through them, I would have advised, because yeah, it would have happened a lot quicker.
Well, thank you for that advice, man. I'm sure a lot of people can resonate with what you're talking about. And yeah, so you guys are listening, please relax, as Linda is saying. And yeah, trials and learn the lessons, right, from each obstacle that you go through. So the last question I have for you before I go into the audience is, firstly, you mentioned in the beginning that you basically leaned into your coaches. So when you're going through the depression stage, so you lean into a lot of coaches. So do you offer any coaching training for those interested by any chance, like maybe on a call or someone that's listening? Do you offer that? Where can they find you, etc.?
As in one-on-one coaching?
Yeah.
I'm not doing that anymore. I am launching an online course for business owners, executives, and kind of team managers and like HR consultants. So I'm offering a leadership course that takes people from the foundations of what you need through to the skills that you would need to develop effective relationships in order to put partnerships in place, grow a team, connect with clients, learn how to sell. So it's more around leadership. So from self-leadership through to external leadership, leading others is what I'm working on now.
Okay, thank you for clearing that up. So so thank you for answering my questions. Now I'm going to turn to the Q&A for the people that are listening right now. If you guys have any questions, I know one person has a question. Let me see who's in the chat. And okay, Sam, do you want me to unmute you while you and ask the question?
Hello.
Yeah, Sam, we can hear you.
Hey, hey Linda. First of all, I'd just like to thank you for jumping on the chat. I can't really show my face because I'm just in a position that doesn't allow me to do that. So, yeah, thank you for jumping on the call. I was actually that person that Tara was talking about who actually phoned him earlier today, because obviously there was some stuff that obviously I was going through, and I just needed that. I knew the answer I needed, but I just needed someone else to tell me, just for me to. Just to feel that, yeah, okay, you're kind of doing the right thing. You know what you need to do, but get on with it. But the main question from me is, how do you stay consistent with that inner work? Because there's some days where I know what I know, but then there's some days that I still fall into that trap, and I let myself get into that depression, and you let yourself get into that rut. And so it's that. How do you get that consistency?
It's just like going to the gym, right? It's what practices can you create? So I meditate every day. If I miss a day of meditation, I feel it throughout my day, because I'm just uneasy. When I meditate, or if like today, I meditated for an hour. So my whole day is I'm just moving along like this. So it's what practices can you put in place? And it could be meditation, but the reason a lot of people are put off by meditation is, oh, I can't quiet in my mind. That's not the point of meditation. Your mind is going to be active. So the point of meditation is for you to be still. And when you get the urge to get up and do something, you sit. And when you sit and you don't allow your body and your mind to take control, you're starting to regain control. You start to regain control of yourself. So you separate yourself from the automaticness of your mind. So there's other things like journaling. With journaling, you can kind of so depression is kind of an enhanced version of anxiety. And anxiety is caused when you're either thinking of the past or you're worrying about the future. So you're not being present. So if there's something that you're scared about, or you're worried that this is going to happen, it's how can you bring yourself back to the present moment. So I have different practices with that, but I also read a lot of books and take little things from the book. So I don't know if you guys have got pens. My top books are Power of Now. I've listened to that on Audible about 22, 23 times. And the number one book for me is The Untethered Soul, and by Michael Singer. And the practices are really about not resisting, because the thing that tends to happen is when you get worried or you get stressed, you want to stop it. So you start but all you're doing is resisting, and whatever you resist persists. If you're just able to stop and be with it, but not pay attention to it, and just sit with it, it eventually passes through. It's like your thoughts and your emotions are like a child throwing a tantrum. So if you pay attention to the child's getting attention, and it's realizing, okay, this behavior is getting me attention, so let me do more of this behavior. It's the same with your thoughts. If you're thinking something and it's getting you into a position of anxiety and you're scared, then the automatic thing is, if you resist it or you try to do something, it's thinking, okay, well, it's almost like putting gasoline on it. Whereas if you're able to just kind of stay back and allow it to be, and realize that in this moment, probably what you're worrying about is not the reality right now, then it passes through. And it will, once it's gone, it's gone. It's not going to come back unless you generate another thought that reactivates something. So it's really around using things like journaling, putting yourself on personal development courses. I'd highly recommend Landmark, or reading books, but not just to read them and be like, oh, that's interesting, but how can you take things from those books to apply them to see, actually, that really worked for me. So can I do this regularly? And then when you fall off your practices and you start realizing that the impact is that you're anxious again, going back, you now have a toolbox of things that work for you that you can go back to, and then you can start building up. But it's going to be like going to the gym. When you start again, it's not going to be an instant fix until you start building up that the I don't know why I'm losing words today, the consistency. So hopefully that helps.
Okay, cool. Thank you for sharing that. Sam, I hope that was helpful. Does anyone else on the call have a question they want to ask Linda? If you don't want to unmute yourself, that's fine. You can send a question in the chat. Is that a raised hand? Doesn't that you want to be unmuted? Let me double check, just in case. Hold on.
Yeah, I don't know why you keep muting me. Don't mute me, man. So would you basically say it's literally about trying to find what works for you? Because I'm not too shy to give a bit of background about myself. I know what I can do, and I know that I have a lot of potential, but sometimes it's finding like that level of consistency or what actually works for me. So is it literally having to try all of those things and then say, okay, this is for me? Or do you just get drawn to something, or do you just recommend trying something specific?
Yeah, try lots of things. There's not usually a one size fits all, but what do you do now that you absolutely love, that makes you happy?
Hold on one second.
I'll say play with my daughter.
Play with your daughter. So whenever you play with your daughter, you forget about everything?
Yeah.
Okay. So then use her for now. No, seriously. Like every time you feel, oh my gosh, I'm going down this, just drop everything, go play with your daughter.
Okay.
That makes sense.
It's little steps like that, being really mindful about the things that bring you joy. So there's a woo-woo saying about follow your bliss. And if something is causing you discomfort, then it's like everyone thinks I'm crazy for walking away from a really, really successful business. Why would I stay in it if I'm dead inside? Like, that doesn't make sense. And the way that I'm going to be able to grow this new venture, which I only started this year, is going to surpass what I was able to do in that venture, because I am ecstatic and I'm happy and I love what I'm doing. So look for the things that bring you joy and start there. And then start experimenting, because you're not going to be able to, if you're in a mist of despair and you try something new, it's going to be harder for that to add value from it, because you're going to be looking for like a quick fix. Your daughter's a quick fix right now. When you get the quick fix from your daughter, it expands your capacity to look for something else. Then you try something else in that state, you're going to be able to pick it up easier.
Yeah.
Lovely. So yeah, does anyone else have any questions for Linda? Okay, Epiphany, 1 second. Hello, Epiphany?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hi, hello Linda. I just want to say that everything that you've said so far has resonated with me so much, and it's been a pleasure hearing you answer the question. So thank you very much for this content that you're bringing this evening.
Welcome.
The question that I have is with regards to your life coaching. I just want to know if you had, or how you got into it, if you did any formal training before taking on clients, and what kind of was your journey, very briefly, because I know we haven't got much time, but yeah, what was your journey in terms of the life coaching?
I didn't. So when I decided I was going to coach, I just got a client 2 weeks later. There was no coach. Wow. There was no qualification. I had friends who had done qualifications. They studied for 2 years, then offered coaching free for a year, and then started charging like £30. I made the decision, and 2 weeks later I got a client for £150 an hour. So
wow. No, the reason I'm asking is because did at that time, had you felt that, okay, I haven't had any training as a coach, am I capable of, or should I be charging this amount for this service? Because this is the kind of predicament that I'm in at the moment.
all of that. I had all of that, but I took action anyway because it felt right. So I think I'm the eldest daughter of 7 children, so I grew up really quickly, and I'm the person in my friendship group that everyone comes to for advice, and I always give impartial advice. And then when I was running my business, I helped my employees reconnect with, like, one of my employees wasn't speaking to his dad. By the time he finished working for me, he had a really good relationship with his dad. One of my employees fell into depression, and I got her out of depression, and she was like this mouse before she left, my PA, and she was running my company by the time I went to India. And she was like, I can't work with anyone else if it's not you. And I said, then don't. And now she's working for herself, and she's traveling in Thailand. So I have been coaching without realizing I was coaching. So I think there was the doubt, like, is anyone going to want to pay me if I don't have this and I don't have that? But I realized that I was better than a lot of people who were trained, because all they had done is trained, whereas I have gone through the process of growth myself. So my ability to hold space for people and help them get results was a lot more impactful. And then when I got that first client, and I was shitting myself, like, they've just paid me. Am I ripping them off? Am I going to be able to add them value?
Yeah.
When I start getting the feedback, like, oh my gosh, I've been working with psychologists for 10 years, and in 2 sessions, I've like figured it out. Thank you. So that then starts building it started building my confidence. So yeah, no, I don't have, but there are going to be people. I've come across people who are like, I know you're good, but I'm going to go with this coach because she's got this and this qualification. I'm like, okay, cool. And it hurts my ego for a bit, and then I let it go. And then they come back to me. So yeah, if you believe in yourself and you feel like you can add value to people, I would say go for it. And there's nothing wrong with getting qualifications. It helps you I did a short course for 2 weeks. It was 2 weekends in 2 weeks, about 8 months into coaching. And it helped me understand, like, models that I can use to guide people to what they want to get to. But I still don't use them strictly as they've been taught, because it doesn't work. Human beings are not linear.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anyone else have any questions for Linda? How good are we doing for time? We're doing all right for time. Maybe one more question if possible. Let me know. If not, then yeah. Okay, so I don't think, if anyone has a question before I stop, then just put in a chat, then I'll ask Linda as well. So Linda, quickly before I round up, is that where can people find you? Where can people follow you? Do you have social media? How can people keep up with you?
Yes, I need to get better at social media, but I'm on Instagram, just my first name and surname together, Linda Mbagwu, and I am on LinkedIn, Linda Mbagwu. What other social media? I'm on Facebook. I've got a page, and my main page, which is probably the main place that I am, and my website is brandbybeing.com. And I've shared a communication course that I've put together with Ty, so I'm sure he's going to distribute that if you guys want to take that on board. It will just teach you about the different. You've taken it, Ty, haven't you?
Yeah, I've got it. So everyone that's on the call, if you want to email, I'll give you the link to the landing page for that free course. It's a 6-day training, right?
Yeah.
So you guys will get that. And if you guys are watching this on YouTube or something, for example, it will be in the description in the link. So yeah, that's for you guys. So yeah. Thank you, Linda. Guys, so before we start rounding up, so I would love you guys to kind of give your feedback. So I'm going to share in the chat now a feedback link. So you should see it now. So please, if you guys can have a look at that feedback link. It's literally a minute maximum, unless you're slow at saying yes or no to questions. So you can have a look at that, see how we can improve. Linda, thank you very, very much.
You're welcome.
Done. So again, guys, for those who missed it in the beginning, we're the A team, and the A in A team stands for active, and which stands for obviously active commitment today inspires victory every day. And of course, we affirm, we commit, we test, we iterate, we validate, and we execute on our visions to make it real. So again, if you guys want to join the A team, you can access, you can email admin@karun.com, and Layla will handle the inquiry for you. Just make sure the subject line is join the A team, and then we'll handle it for you. So again, thank you, Linda. Thank you for everyone that's come on a call today, and I hope every one of you have a great evening. So yeah, all right, cheers.